Hello, welcome. I am Dena Romios from Greek AF Radio, doing our podcast Muse-Cast with Dena. Today, our first guest ever, and our featured guest is Yorgos Karamihos.
Hi,
Welcome.
everyone.
Welcome.
Hi, I'm very happy to be here.
We're happy to have you. It's kind of exciting to finally open up again and have live performances.
Yeah, what a blessing. Suddenly we realize how blessed we have been in our lives, right?
Yeah.
Without appreciating it.
Yes. So this play was originally scheduled for the bicentennial, correct?
Yes, for March 21.
Okay. And
2021.
obviously COVID happened. And where did you see your how did your life change with COVID? You kind of went back to Greece and were on a soap opera, I believe?
Yes, that's what happened because all the productions I was talking about while I was here, they all froze for almost a year. And then the classes that I'm teaching at Stella Adler, the classes were online.
Okay.
And then I had this offer to go to Greece. Greeks always find a way to...
We're resilient that way, aren't we?
Yeah, we are. That's why. That's how we survive. And
Yeah.
so I went to Greece. I did a soap opera,
Yes.
a daily
Which
show.
I followed, by the way. Well done. Well
It was
done.
called
I enjoyed it.
Ilios. It still runs without
I didn't
me.
like that you were killed off, but
Well, they had to, write me out of the show. There were other different ways to do that, but they chose this one. It's fine.
they couldn't do the classic American thing, put him in a coma for 30 years. And
Well,
then
I
he
was in
wakes
a
up.
coma. I was in a coma last year for almost a month in the show. So
Okay.
they burned that card of theirs.
Postis comas nice, right?
Πόσα κόμματα να πέσω. And what else? I did a film, David Cronenberg's film,
when
Crimes
is
of
that
the
releasing?
Future. I guess in May or
Of this year?
Yes, but it'll run first in festivals,
Okay.
and then it will be released, I think, properly in September or something.
Mass media in America, or is this a European film?
It's a American-Canadian production.
Okay.
It filmed in Greece with Viggo Mortensen, Kristen Stewart.
Big
and,
names.
Yeah, Leah Seydoux,
Bravo.
some big names in there. And the biggest name is David Cronenberg himself as well. He's an iconic director.
So you were born in Vedia,
Mm-hmm.
January 3rd.
Yes,
You're a Capricorn.
completely.
Me too.
Oh,
Yes.
thank God.
Yes, right?
One more efficient human being.
Well, I'm sure people that know me can tell you that's not always the
I
case.
know. Deep down, we are all dysfunctional.
we are.
But the facade is inefficient,
So tell me, what was it like growing up in Greece?
Well, growing up in
Were you in a
Greece...
poli or a chorio?
No, I grew up in Veria. Half the year we lived in Veria. Half the year we stayed in a village called Yorgani, which is close to Veria, because we had our goats. My father was a farmer and shepherd as well. So I grew up as a shepherd until I turned 13, that we sold the goats. And then
You sold the goats.
Yeah, that was a painful
I'm sure.
moment. It was a big relief, just to be yourself without having to wake up every day, because you can't tell the goats, I don't feel like doing this today. I'm not gonna milk you today. I'm not gonna feed you today. Then we focused more on the farming, basically peaches and apples and pears. And
So fruit
stuff
farmers.
Like that. Fruit farmers.
Okay.
And every Friday and Saturday I worked at the butcher shop. My mother's brother
Oh, nice.
was a butcher, and I worked there for 6 years. Every
wow.
Friday and Saturday. And then when I turned 17, the last year of high school, I decided I wanted to become an actor. Of course, my parents didn't agree with that at all, especially my mom.
Yeah,
the typical drama.
Well, that's where you got your drama
Yeah,
skills from, right? From your mom?
Exactly.
Okay.
From my dad as well. Both are good on different let's say, departments of acting. And then, so I went to Corfu to study. I did my Panellinis, the exams, and I managed to get into the history and philosophy department of Ionian University.
Yeah, I was doing some research on your background, and I found that quite fascinating. And I kind of thought that maybe that's the parallel why you were so interested in Makriyannis, because of your history background.
In a way, yes.
In a way, yes.
In a way,
okay.
yes. I totally relate with some of the adventures he had. I completely relate to that.
So to get back to the conversation we were having, so you at 17 went away to college and studied history and philosophy, and then you decided to become an actor.
Yes, actually I had decided to become an actor before that, but I didn't have the approval of my parents, and I was still, a teenager. So practically I had to do something that they would agree with.
Mm-hmm.
That was studying at the university. And as soon as I arrived in Corfu, the first thing I did is I got involved with theater.
Okay.
I went to Kirkiraiki Skini. I played in many plays there and major parts. And then I went to the National Theatre after I graduated university. But you asked me how I relate with Makriyannis.
Yes.
Is until 1981, I was 7, we had no electricity in our house in the village. So all the things that he talks about, the mud and the dirt and trying to find ways to survive, it's something that I lived with. Also, if you're a shepherd and you live for 15 hours per day with goats out in the mountains, and there were still wolves back then, and all that stuff. I had no coyotes in Greece, but wolves. No.
Okay.
Coyotes are only in America.
Well, see, I learned something new today.
Yeah, it's my job. I work with animals. The technique that I teach is based on animal archetypes, so I have to.
So did you find when you were a child, for example, you said you kind of had the inclination that you might wanted to be an actor. Did you ever kind of like act for your parents maybe? But not like act, but kind of like, I'm gonna tell you in my way.
Yeah. The first time I actually acted, I performed, I was six years old.
Really?
One of the exceptions in the village, one of the few that had studied, Aunt Markella. She organized a whole day of theater. So all the kids, we participated, singing and dancing and performing. And I played silent parts of a dog. And I won the first award.
As a dog?
Yeah, as a dog. And then I sang a song. And I won the first award, which was a big ice cream. All the others had, the average ice cream.
Oh, you got
the
a
winner
bigger...
had the bigger ice cream.
So,
the piravlos, exactly. Number 1.
Yeah.
So that was my first experience. But in general, it was very theatrical growing up in a village. Because at nights, and especially without electricity, there was no TV, no internet, no devices, nothing to distract your attention. And everybody from the village would gather together and we would sing and dance and perform and tell stories. Those nights
that sounds magical.
Yeah, those nights that we would make a fire and bring corn. Usually we would steal the corn from neighbors, and then the following day they would steal from our corn.
Hola, Donica, right?
Exactly. No one would complain though about that. And we would, eat and drink and sing. And the adults would get a little bit tipsy as well with some raki, some tsipuro, or some wine for the ladies. And then they would start performing, actual performances.
That just sounds so incredible, because it's something that grew organically in a community. And as Greeks, we have always had a certain appreciation of the arts, and to see a community coming together to showcase and make the best out of a situation that they couldn't, that every other part of Greece had electricity, TV, cinema, to do that. That's actually, I think that's fabulous and amazing because these children that are adults now, like yourself, have memories that other people can't relate to. That's just
No.
it's magical.
I'm trying to explain to my kids, for example, how it felt like growing up in a world without internet.
You have two
Without
kids, correct?
I have two kids.
Nossa,
My
isso, né?
son is 8 and my daughter is 24. She's turning 24
Wow.
in a week. And it's not easy to understand. I'm trying to explain to my students how it felt like having time, because that's let's say our penalty. That's our
Yes.
issue these days. We have zero time. If you have 5 minutes, you just look at your phone. You have emails. You have this. What happened on Instagram? What happened on Facebook?
Right.
This is consuming. It's really consuming.
Yeah. Unfortunately or fortunately, we do live in a world that we are so streamlined and we are so connected to our devices. I have a son as well. He's 21, and I always tell him, I'm like, you know what? You're never going to understand the satisfaction of hanging up on somebody. Because when I get mad, I'd hang up the phone. Dora, it doesn't have the same effect, you know? It's so...
Who cares? Yes.
Yeah, it's like whatever. And then the other person doesn't get the effect because they don't hear the sound of it happening. They just think, oh, it was a dropped call. It's not the same effect.
And also there are many other ways to track you, to
Right.
find, you know, they have access to your pictures, to you,
Correct.
your social media accounts, everywhere. There are good aspects though, of course, and I think it's a great blessing that we had the technology and Instagram and the social media during the pandemic.
Oh,
That's when it showed what the issue is. Even now with the war, I mean, 100 years ago, people wouldn't even know what was happening, what was going on between Russia and Ukraine and all that area. Now you learn everything firsthand from people that are in there, which is more painful because it's direct connection, but at the same time it helps us connect, this sense of community that you mentioned, because there's always darkness and light at the same time. In that village where I grew up, and we used to tell stories, all these magical, beautiful moments that definitely are my treasure, but that treasure has not just, you know, nice jewelry in it and coins. It has all the darkness, all the manure and filth as well, which means secrets. No one would be themselves. They all pretended. They had to hide even a sickness, even a disease in the village. You would never say, I'm sick.
No, you wouldn't. And it's weird though that even today in some small remote villages of Greece, they still have that. And going back towards your village now, are they like all saying that they made you because of the campfires? Yes. I'm sure there's a...
Actually, they refuse to relate that because there is still some sort of embarrassment.
Really?
For someone being an actor, at least until a few years ago. Now they don't care anymore as much.
So when they were watching Ilios, they weren't, or Yorgakis.
Yes, with Ilios it was something great. Everything on TV.
Because they have TV now, so...
and they had part of that validation. Oh, he's from our village. Oh, you see what water we have in our village? This is what... this is the result of our water. Everything is about the water that, you know, that's in the village or everything. But when someone gets crazy or murder or something, he drank the water from the other village.
The other village's water was not pure, and that's why he became a maniac.
Exactly.
Okay. So let's fast forward to 2012. 10 years ago, huh?
10 years ago.
What happened?
10 years ago, I received a scholarship, a Fulbright Scholarship.
A Fulbright, okay, thank you.
And as an exceptional artist from Greece, which I accepted. And I chose Stella Adler as an academy to attend.
And for those that don't know...
It was for 6 months, that Fulbright Scholarship that I received. And Stella Adler Acting Academy is one of the top
in the world.
Acting academies in the world.
And
in the States,
here
it's
in Los
Stella
Angeles.
Adler and Lee Strasberg. They're they both have departments in New York, but Stella Adler from New York and from Los Angeles have not the same, let's say, guideline.
So, what was your inspiration to become an actor? I know you said as a child you wanted to be, but what was it? Because it's not like you were watching TV as a child, because you didn't have that resource or that luxury at that time.
No, I think I
but
wanted
what
to
was
escape. I wanted to escape
Escape from
the village.
village life is life.
From a society where I couldn't be myself, where I couldn't have the chance to explore more things about humanity. I was curious since I was a kid. I never felt that I belonged there. If you see my pictures when I was a kid of wearing my pajamas with all the goats that they had their own names, I totally fit in the frame, and I can easily go back. I still miss the goats and being a shepherd and all that.
Yeah, there's a company here that provides parties with goats. So maybe for the premiere, Sharon, we can have some goats for Yorgos.
Yeah, and there's a goat healing also.
Goat yoga or something.
Goat yoga, yes, all this stuff. But no, I'd rather have the goats as goats, real in the nature. And so I guess I wanted to escape. What I usually tell my students is that the reason why we become actors is because we have issues that we want to resolve. And also because something went wrong when we were kids. We were not loved, and we didn't learn how to love the way we wanted. So we start exploring different human possibilities and relationships in order to understand how to love and be loved in a better way, which is common with all the other humans. It's just that we take the decision
to explore it.
Okay. And understand and go deeper and experience it for others, so that others don't have to go through what we did.
So, in some way, what I'm getting from this is you are trying to transport the emotions for the audience to feel.
In a way, yes. It's like referring to a common spirit. And we are like avatars. Instead of experiencing it firsthand, you go to the theater, you watch a movie, you watch a TV, and you go through all that different landscape from yours, but still a human being explores all those situations, and you can be a little bit more daring as a member of the audience as well. You want them to open the doors and the windows that you wouldn't open in real life. Deep inside you're afraid. You're like, no, don't do that, don't say that, no, you're gonna ruin it. But there is an afterthought or a deepest, darkest side of ourselves saying, please do that so that I know how it feels like, so that I don't need to do that in my real life. Please divorce, please fight, please kill your parents, kill your kids, to see how it feels like, because we all have
hidden emotions
and thoughts.
So, who are your favorite actors and actresses? And from different eras, like as a child, I'm sure.
Kate Blanchett.
Really?
Yes.
She's, I feel she's a top-notch character actress.
She's brilliant, whatever she does.
Yeah.
Marlon Brando. I think he's the ideal actor. I like Ed Harris, Daniel Day-Lewis, and...
Who do you relate to the most? Or a character, maybe not another actor, I should take that back possibly, but like, let me rephrase that. In all the roles that you have a very long and a beautiful career. Which character that you played do you relate to the most?
I would say with all of them, but right now with Makriyannis, because this is
your current project,
my current situation, and in general I've been working hard for many years now through all the other things that I do to be present and enjoy what I have. I think that Makriyannis incorporates everything I've done so far.
What is the greatest and toughest part of being an actor?
The greatest is that if you manage to connect with a character, you have the unique experience to live an entire life in just an hour and a half on stage. And go through that again and again and again. It's like a weird psychological game that you're gonna do it again until you find, the answers that you're looking for. Even though there are no answers, at least you have the chance to experience that without having anyone to point their fingers and say, you're crazy now, you act like crazy, you cannot do that. But it's legitimate. That's the greatest thing for me. Also the love that you receive from people that you don't know, but for some reason they manage to connect with your journey, with your exploration. That's the most important for me, sharing.
When you perform, because obviously you perform on television, movies, and now once again you're performing in theater. When you get that first applause, what does that feel like?
I never cared about applause, to be honest. I knew if the show was good, even without the applause. And when the applause happens or the standing ovation, it's not for me. I don't take it personally at all. I think we all applaud for what happened, what we all experienced together.
Don't you feel though that those applause validate the connection you made with the audience?
In a way, yes. But
and they appreciate what you have presented to them.
From my experience, I've been in shows where the applause were huge and grandiose and everybody was, but the show was not anything special, and I knew that. And those people would go after theater and talk about whatever. And there were other shows where the reaction was a little bit more subtle, and you could see that those people took in better the whole play and your performance, and that's the show that I care about. Of course I like the applause, but I was never one of those actors that I can't live without. That's why I don't do much theater, because I don't want the direct reaction of the audience. I don't care about that, and honestly I would rather play with a mask. I would rather use the mask to protect Yorgos from this misunderstanding, this confusion that quite often happens with actors, that they think that they are the character.
I'm sure.
And they take personally the success. That's a disaster. That hides a lot of melancholy, if not loneliness and depression underneath. You can't take things personally. My mouth when I'm on stage does not belong to me, even off stage, but on stage it's obvious it does not belong to me. Through my mouth, many voices have to be heard. The voices of my parents, of all the relatives, the teachers, good and bad experiences, they all will have the chance through my mouth to be heard for a good cause, for a common cause. We all want to become better. We all want to avoid pain.
Right now you're doing
I didn't answer what's the worst, because you asked me what's the best, what's the worst being an actor.
I'm sorry.
Should I
go for it?
Go for it now. The worst part of being an actor is if you're a good actor and you're successful, you lose your freedom.
Yes.
It's very easy it's a blurry zone there.
Especially I feel like, because the celebrities, the musicians, the singers that I work with in Greece, it's very hard for them to go out to dinner.
Yeah.
Because they're going to go get a bite of food and then somebody comes to take a selfie or what have you. And that's why a lot of them love coming on tour, because here only the Greek people know them. And the chances are you're not going to run into a Greek person at Starbucks and say, oh my God, Yorgos Karamihos, he died, but let me take a selfie, But I can see...
Even without the selfie,
but
it's annoying because you can't fight with your kid in the street. Whatever you say has a different gravity.
Yes.
You can't kiss in the middle of the street. You can't hold someone's hand. You can't be with a friend in the middle of the street and talk bullshit. Because all those ears are there.
And now, like we said earlier, with social media, camera phones, something could be taken out of context. So you are, on some level, a slave to your craft.
Yeah, especially for me that I used to do, even now, I like free camping, to go to a beach and be, naked and blah, blah. Having iPhones, anyway, smartphones all around,
Right.
taking pictures of you, it's well, I can't feel free. That's
So
the worst
is that
thing.
one reason you like being in America? Because you do have a little bit more degree of freedom?
It's tricky. There are always Greeks everywhere.
That is true. That is true.
I like being a horse with no name here every now and then.
Okay.
But in general, the reason that I like being here is because I can do my job. It's not very easy to do your job in Greece anymore. You have to always prove yourself. You always have to satisfy and please others. Here, if you're good at your job, that's it. You don't have to show who your grandparent, who your father, who your uncle is.
The Messon factor that we talk about in Greece.
Exactly.
Now, fast forward Makriyannis. I've seen certain pictures. Sharon has shared a few things with me, and let's talk about this play. The Stavros Niarchos Foundation is sponsoring this completely, correct? And so when they presented this to you, or did you tell me how this all happened, basically?
Well, we were talking with Sharon, and we were thinking what we could
tell
do
us, who
for
is Sharon?
Sharon Gersel. She is our boss, but not bossy at all. She's the heart of Greek studies at UCLA.
Where we are at
where
today.
we are at today, usually without the Denekere, without the tins behind us. You see, she even offered her office to store the set of the show. She's an honorary Greek, but more Greek than any other Greek. And we had met through common friends a year before we started talking about what can we do for the 200 years from Greek independence.
The bicentennial, which was
Yes.
huge for all over the world, and we all were so excited to actually celebrate it, and then we weren't able to because of obviously
Because of
COVID.
the pandemic, yes.
But here's the beauty about being Greek. We will carry the bicentennial for at least the next 20 years, right?
At least,
In our
yes.
hearts, at least. So this project is presented to you, or did you
Well, she
audition?
asked me what could I bring
Okay.
for the 200 years, and I said there's a big project. So I talked about an ancient Greek tragedy, and there's a smaller production that I could do, like a monologue. And the first hero that came in my mind was Makriyannis, because actually he's the only one that wrote such a massive book, his memoirs on what actually happened, seen from his point of view. As an actor, I don't have to justify, I don't have to play only good guys or good choices or good points of view. I can play the villain, I can play the victim. In this case, this hero is unique because he's a truly inspired human being, not just because he became a hero during the war, but because he had to reinvent his life to find ways to understand what love is. He grew up, he was born and raised under the worst ever circumstances you can imagine.
Now, where I did my research, but for those, I'm going to ask questions that you might be like, come on, Dena, like, read about it. But for those that don't know, where was Makriyannis from?
Makriyannis was from a very small village,
In what part of Greece?
Avoritis, in central Greece. He was born literally in a forest. His mom went to collect wood, and suddenly she went into labor and she gave birth to him. And then a few months later, his dad was killed by the Turks, and they all had to run away because the Ali Pasha's Turks wanted to take them as slaves. They ran away, they went to another place where he had to work since he was 7. He started working, and they would beat him up. He had to do more work at home, so he tried to run away. They wouldn't let him. They would bring him back until he turned 14, and finally he went to another city, to the city of Arta. And since he was 14, he wanted to get involved in trade and borrow money, and that shows how clever he was. He was an exceptional human being.
He had like an entrepreneurial spirit
Exactly,
in some way.
exactly. Totally.
Now,
and he became rich before he turned 20. He had his own money, his own house, his own stables with his own horses, pretty much everything he needed. And after that point, he had already discovered and achieved what he wanted. He needed another task, and the task came through the War of Independence. A treasurer from Arta asked him to be initiated in Philikieteria, the secret society. That's how he met other people that talked to him about the big revolution, and that's how he bought the guns and he started fighting.
one thing that I was in doing my background on this, I know that at that time they weren't properly educated. So I assumed that he went through Krifosloya.
No.
How did he become educated to write
He didn't go to any school. He did. By that point, he was still illiterate. He didn't know how to read and write.
Yeah, he wrote
After the
memoirs.
war started, he needed to write down the true facts, because the historians and the politicians changed the history, and they would write in the newspapers everywhere false news. So he started writing things, and he was afraid that he would be arrested, as he was arrested later. So he had to hide them in tenekeles, sometimes everywhere, under stones, in the tiles, on the roof, everywhere. He used to hide them, but he wanted to write them down for the later generations to have something to study, the real stories. The facts. Because we have, in general in Greece, we believe that some guys were heroes when they were not actually heroes. Or some politicians, the same nowadays, it's always the same story, that the corruption didn't let them win. His fight, his struggles, and his dangers were not only because of the Turks, they were mainly because of the Greeks.
There were a lot of internal conflicts.
Civil war, the worst war ever.
What I want to know, and I'm sure most people, and I don't know if you're going to touch on this on the play, how were the manuscripts discovered?
Oh, that was a huge journey. They were discovered by some guy. Thank God they managed to transcript, to write them down, and then they disappeared.
They disappeared?
Yes.
Magically?
Not magically, I guess.
Well,
Sharon is more adequate to talk to us about, because
when I say magically, I
someone
mean
tried to
confiscate and destroy.
Yeah, or maybe out of indifference. Maybe someone didn't know what those things were.
Or they didn't want the story to be told.
Yes.
So here
it's a very annoying story. Even in the 80s, people refused to talk about this, and then they discovered another script, apart from the memoirs, he wrote when he was much older than the memoirs, and I used a couple of things from that book as well. I cheated a little bit. He was not himself completely anymore. He had severe injuries in his head during the war, and after a certain age, he started connecting more with the spirit of God and Christ, and he believed in different dimensions. He was considered a little crazy by his
aren't we all?
friends. Yes, I trust more crazy people than normal. I don't know what that means anyway. And yes, at the end he started writing things that were quite annoying for pretty much everyone, even for the church, for politicians, for military men and women, for everybody. He was not an easygoing person.
Do you touch on this factor in the play?
Yes.
Will we see?
Yes, we see some of his madness. One of the big battles in Athens is the one where he got those injuries in his head. He lost half of his head, but thank God the brain was there intact. But the skin of his brain was covered with all sort of dirt, because all the Greeks and Turks soldiers in the fortress of Acropolis, they stepped on his body thinking that he was dead.
Wow.
All the bones of his body and of his skull were broken. And the doctor tried to take piece by piece, all the fez was in his head. And he took, piece by piece, all the fabric from inside his brain, and he left the broken bones in there. He was afraid that if he touched them,
they'll shatter.
He would die. And he lived like that for the rest of his life.
Which was
20, he was very young. He was 24 when the war started, and he wrote his memoirs. He finished his memoirs before he turned 35. And he already had those injuries, and then he lived 30 more years with all those injuries.
What can we expect to see on March 26th, 202 plus 1 day after Greek independence? Or do you want everybody just to come and see?
I want everybody to come and see,
they
definitely.
will.
But
I understand it's going
I
well.
can give you some spoiler. I
don't
want
spoilers.
the tradition.
I don't want spoilers.
I used all the tradition. I grew up, as I told you, in a village where people sing and drink and all that stuff. So I needed to incorporate singing. He wrote his own songs, Makriyannis as well.
And you sing, correct?
I sing traditional songs, not the songs that he wrote. Okay. Apart from one song, we don't know how what was the music like that he used. Our composer Yannis Mathes composed a little melody behind one of Makriyannis' songs, and mainly a young actress. That's the big surprise. Although it's a monologue performed by two people. Okay. A young actress, Mamie. She's only 17, and the minute I saw her, I said, "Oh my God, can I have you in the show?" I mean, she belongs to a different world. Let's say this girl, and she represents. Is she gonna have her cell phone there? No, not on stage. Maybe she will. I don't know. We haven't finalized all the performances yet. She'll be singing, basically, dancing with me on stage, and also delivering some of the lines that are not easy to be delivered by someone who experienced all that firsthand. So she, helps.
Okay, excellent.
She chips in, and so there will be singing, there will be some dancing. Mainly, there will be a storytelling. And that's it. What do you hope your audience will walk away with after they see this film?
Film.
I'm sure they will leave. Play. They will leave the theater, I'm sure, with an urgency to have a drink of this endless speech for an hour and 15 minutes non-stop, someone bombarding them with information, fighting and then loving, and then there are very many humorous moments as well. I worked on that comic relief. It's very important for a dramatic story, and I wish they will leave with a pigeon with a dove of peace in their hearts, realizing that it's 2022, let's learn from our lessons. Finally, humanity has to stop fighting. We can learn from that. We don't need to impose ourselves on others. And enough with the pain. There is already enough pain out there. We shouldn't cause more of that.
After Los Angeles, you are going to Vancouver.
On the 3rd of April.
The 3rd of April, and then back to Greece, correct?
Yes, on the 14th of April we have the show there under the auspices of American embassy, the U.S. embassy in Greece.
And where do you go after this? If, let's say, I'm sensing that this is going to be very powerful, only because of I see your passion for this play, and I'm excited to see how you are going to present this. If somebody else, let's say another community, will you be taking this on the road, I guess, is what I'm asking.
It's an easy to travel. We only have the
Dena
tents and some metal mesh behind it. We already have some offers.
You do?
We were approached by different cities in the States.
Okay.
And in Canada and in Europe as well, Brussels, London, and many places in Greece. I would like to take it to Veria, my hometown, because the new theater, very ancient theater, Aristotle's theater in Nieza, was renovated and open for that. So Angeliki, the head of the archaeological department in Veria, she asked me if we wanted to bring the show there, but so far there's no show in my hands. I'll have the show in 2 weeks. After that, we'll know. People from Australia, they keep on asking for the show, from Melbourne and Sydney. Wherever there are Greeks, they want the show.
Well,
which is interesting.
there's Greeks everywhere, so who knows, right?
I have a small suitcase that's very convenient.
What's next for Yorgos Karamihos?
What's next? I co-wrote a TV series with a friend of mine, Dorothea Pascalidou, who lives here in Los Angeles, and she's a producer, and will co-direct it in Greece. And that's the next step. Then I have 2 films that are supposed to happen. They were supposed to happen last year. Due to the pandemic, they were pushed back to May, and now I think we'll start in September, October, because of the war. And
will those be filmed in
some
Europe?
of the area, yes, and very close to the war. So that was postponed. I'm on hold for 2 big jobs, one for Netflix and one for another broadcast through London, and who knows, right now it's Makriyannis and the school I keep on teaching at Stella Adler here.
So in order for someone to, let's say, can they come in one day, make an appointment and watch you teach? Or how does that, if somebody wants to catch you in action, let's say teaching, would they be able to?
Well, at the school, at Stella Adler here, they can audit the class if someone wants. I usually offer my class for free for all the Greeks. They already travel a lot. I've done that arrangement with the school, and they help, they contribute in the class. And apart from the school here, I usually give workshops, independent.
Yes, there's one coming up online, I believe, with Christo, no?
That's just Christos. It's his workshop.
Okay.
I have some planned for end of April, beginning of May in Greece, into different locations in Greece for actors or people that want to become actors.
What would you is now, as you said, working in Greece as an actor is very, very hard for different reasons. What tips would you give somebody, an aspiring actor from Greece that wants to come and make it
in the States?
In the States.
Just the simple advice: follow your heart. The fear is the only impediment in this case. If we are afraid, we're not going to make it. And it also depends on what you want to make it. Once you start your journey, you will find the answers. It might not be as easy as you think. Maybe the answers won't be responding to the questions you put out there. Maybe they're different, but definitely exploring and risking will bring you some good results. If you do it with all your heart, and if you know why you are doing it, and if you're not attached to your goals. That's the biggest poison in our lives, I think, attachment.
On many levels, yes, absolutely.
If you're attached to, let's say, family, that I have to be happy, so I have to have kids, or this, or that, or I have to have a career, if you're attached to any of those ideas, most likely you'll disappoint yourself. There's no limit there. If you're not attached and if you just risk and enjoy your life day by day, every second, every moment, if you can't, you see that light, I'm talking to you, but at the same time I'm enjoying that beam of sun on that tree behind you. That's very precious to be able to see that and not only focus, oh my God, I'm being interviewed now. Pressure.
There's no pressure.
Isn't there?
With me?
No, not at all.
Just
actually.
kidding.
Not at all, actually. I felt like home.
Well, thank you. So I'm going to wrap this up. What I like to do, we do this with my friends a lot, and it's play a little game. This or that. I'm going to give you a this and a that, and you tell me which one you prefer.
All right.
Moussaka or pasticcio?
None of them.
I know you're a vegetarian, but if you had a choice.
I'm pescatarian.
Pescatarian, I'm sorry. Okay.
Not because I'm not, I don't eat meat, but because my mother never cooked those.
Okay.
She cooks very simple, some of them are not that simple, but
Yeah, I know what you mean. I know
quite
Hodyo
simple.
food.
She never had the bechamel, she never used cream.
Mm-hmm. The goats
some
didn't give
reason.
you guys milk?
Oh yes, we had goat milk, but
It didn't make a good
she
bechamel.
never made, no, she never tried it.
Okay.
She never made for us pasticcios or moussaka. Those were for tourists.
Okay.
And I never liked them particularly.
The heaveness. Okay,
The
so
taste of it was a bit complicated.
so
A
neither.
bit confusing, neither.
We'll pass on that one.
Yeah.
Okay. Melamakarana or kurabye?
Kurabye.
Really?
Yes. I love melama. I eat one kurabye, one melamakarona to try and choose which one is my favorite, but I would go for kurabye.
Kurabye. Nutella or merenda?
Merenda.
Okay.
Jesus.
Merenda.
This is blasphemy.
You know,
You don't have
I'm
to.
going to edit this portion and I'm going to send it to Miranda and I'm going to make a commercial and say, here you go,
You'll
Yorgos
get your
Karamihos.
percentage.
Your favorite Greek soccer team?
Ike.
Okay.
What do you mean? It's like swallowing the bad pill. What are you? Which is your team?
Stella Sipoli.
Oh, okay. But what about the soccer team?
They are a soccer team. Oh my God.
A proper one, you know.
Frappe or Fredo?
No coffee. Makes me sleepy.
Really?
Yeah.
The rest of us, it makes us hyped up,
Very
right?
rarely I drink a Greek coffee just to read the cup.
okay.
Or an espresso after dinner before going to sleep because it makes me sleepy.
Ion or lacta?
Ion.
With or without nuts?
Can I have with and without? How can you choose?
We just want to know.
I think with
Coke or Pepsi?
none.
I knew that was coming. You don't like processed stuff.
And they have caffeine in them, so
Yeah.
it's disturbing for me. It makes me sleepy.
Mykonos or Santorini?
They're both very touristy for me, as you can understand. I have a house on Mysia, so you can imagine it's exactly the opposite. But
Oh, is that an
I can't
invitation?
choose. Of course, it's an invitation.
So all of us from
I would
Greek
say
AF
Santorini.
Radio, we're going to
I would say
Yorgos.
Santorini because it's
More pure, I think, a little.
well, not just pure. It's the history that. Don't forget, I studied history
Yes.
and archaeology, so Akrotir is very important for me. What those people did so many thousand years ago, and the way they left their houses. Because from what we found, it shows that they left their houses. They
It was nothing.
literally leaving the table.
Right. Stromeno.
Stromeno, yeah, and it's fascinating, and the images are incredible.
Potential play.
It's primordial. Yeah, could be.
And
Inspired by my favorite fresco from Santorini.
Athena or Thessaloniki?
Athena, by far.
Really? Why?
Because Thessaloniki is a little bit. It's an illusion. Thinking that there is a co-capital. But what's the definition of co-capital? I love Thessaloniki. I'm from Varia.
Yes, that's good. I really expect you to say Thessaloniki.
Has beautiful people and everything, but
Και μπουγάτσα. Αλλά δεν τρως.
And the food. I try boughatsa. Πώς δεν τρώω μπουγάτσα? But it's just that Athens is the big city. Athens is where things happen. It's the same between Barcelona and Madrid. I always preferred Madrid. There's a little bit the provincial air in Thessaloniki, which has the good aspects and the bad aspects of it. But I'd rather, definitely Athens.
Okay.
Less issues to resolve.
You think?
you know the saying in Greece.
Yeah, but no.
A few houses make a bad village.
Okay.
The smaller a community is, the more pressure kids feel in that community. At least so far.
Do you like bouzoukia?
Not particularly. I prefer traditional.
Traditional. Okay.
Folklore.
It's funny because I produce, Greek musicians here in the West Coast, and I love paradosiaki musiki, and I love clavino, I love all that. It's my jam, and everyone's just looking at me like, really? But I'm so happy to hear that. We will invite you.
And so my favorite instrument is gaida.
Yeah.
It's the sound that really drives me crazy. The minute I hear gaida, I want to start dancing, zonaradiko.
Yes, or the asbestades and all that. Our kids here in California, primarily, they all belong to Greek folk dance groups, so they just had their folk dance festival. And if you were ever to be back around February, I think it'd be a good thing for you to see, because you'll see 3,000 Greek kids, Makriyannis, dancing in full Greek traditional costumes. It's amazing. So hopefully, at some point, we'll be
soon.
Yes. Well, I just wanted to thank you so much for this lovely, lovely interview and giving me and our viewers a little bit of insights to you and what we are to expect with the play coming up. I wish you lots and lots of success. I'm so excited to come and observe and feel what you are doing, because I do feel and believe that the arts are to be felt, not just watched. And I have a very good feeling that is what you're going to give your audience. And we're very excited, and I do wish you continued success, and hopefully more projects down the line we can chat again. And thank you. This was my first one, and I'm like,
Well, it felt great for me.
Thank you
very much
for making me so comfortable.
It's an honor to have me as your first guest.
Thank you. And I want to thank Sharon and UCLA for hosting us. And I guess my famous tagline is, see you at the show, right?
See you at the show.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.